Welcome back to DFS Rebels for the Sunday slate of Week 12 games. It's your boy Dante, back at it again, sharing some banger picks along with a couple of sleepers to help you make those difficult lineup decisions and, of course, fill up those pockets. So, with that being said, it is time to join the rebellion. All right, so welcome back. I hope everybody out there had a great Thanksgiving. Of course, ate a lot of food, had a nice day's rest, enjoyed some great football, had three great games on that slate, all one-score games. A lot of a lot of fantasy prizes. Now, of course, you may be wondering where my colleague, Mr. Rob, is tonight. Unfortunately, he will not be able to make. He's got some other events going on, but still, we're both coming off of great slates, great days on Thanksgiving. Rob may be a little better than what I had, but he's not here, so at least I'll have to admit it in front of him. But anyway, we're back. Rob's got some notes that I'm going to read to you as well. We're back. We're ready for another productive Sunday slate of games. We're on week 12 now, so let's get right into it. So starting with my notes here, a couple of guys I like. My favorite quarterback of the week is Geno Smith, who's only costing $6,000 DraftKings salary. He has a very favorable matchup versus our Raiders defense that is ranked 30th against opposing quarterbacks. And obviously, the most common stack will be the Kenneth Walker, who's projected to have a huge day against a porous Raiders run defense. But also, I think not a lot of people are talking about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett this particular week. They're 6,500 and 6,200 in DraftKings salary respectively, and they're just really been flying under the radar ever since Russell Wilson has left the Seahawks. And if I do have to choose between one of them, I do like Tyler Lockett a little bit better, only because he's been more consistent in terms of fantasy production this year. But I think they're both would be great starts, along with Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's the obvious one, so if you want probably the safest bet, do Kenneth Walker along with Geno Smith. But if you want to be different, go bold, definitely go either Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. And another quarterback that I have written down here is Lamar Jackson. So he is going to be the most expensive quarterback on the slate, I believe. Or actually, that might be Patrick Mahomes. But either way, he's the top two most expensive quarterbacks on the slate. He's 8,000 in DraftKings salary. He's going to be he's going to be more explosive than Geno Smith. He's going to have the higher ceiling. That's why he's more expensive. But of course, there's a drastic salary difference too. He's $2,000 more draft salary. So if you have the extra salary, they go with Lamar Jackson, but he's also going to have a high ownership percentage entering this week. But the reason why I do like Lamar a lot is because he's got a very favorable matchup versus the Jaguars. So yeah, so with that matchup, it's too hard to ignore. They've struggled. The Jaguars did have struggled against opposing quarterbacks all season long. I think Patrick Mahomes has lit them up when he played them a couple weeks ago. So I expect something similar with Lamar. Plus, he's going to have his favorite weapon, Mark Andrews, back fully healthy. And I do like that stack up a lot. That is the only player on the Ravens offense that I would stack with Lamar. I'd stay away from everybody else. I apologize about the Devin Duvernay saying a week ago. He hasn't, he didn't I mean, he looked okay, but he definitely didn't, perform to where I expected it. But anyway, I'm not gonna say Devin Duvernay this week. The only person I really do like, along with Lamar Jackson at Ravens offense, is the tight end Mark Andrews. And a running back that I do like, I know I talked about the Seahawks Raiders game just before, but as running back on the other sideline, Josh Jacobs, who's 7,700 DraftKings salary. He is one of the more expensive running backs on the slate. However, the Seahawks defense has struggled defending the run all season long. However, my only catch with Josh Jacobs this week is that he's listed as questionable currently. He's practiced all week, limited on Fridays, limited yesterday, but he's still projected to play tomorrow. However, keep an eye on that because if for any reason at all that they do rule out Josh Jacobs, then I'd go Amir Abdullah, who's listed as the number two running back in the depth chart, only 4,600 DraftKings salary. He sees the second most carries after Josh Jacobs because I feel like that'll be a guy that a lot of people miss on. if Josh Jacobs cannot go tomorrow. So definitely add him into your lineups. That could be the difference right there between you winning or losing this week. And yeah, the reason why I like either of those two running backs, and obviously primarily Josh Jacobs if he plays, but Amir if he doesn't, or if excuse me, Amir if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, is because also the projected forecast for that game is rainy, so they might actually run the ball a little more. Now, of course, they still throw too. I don't think it's be any crazy football could just probably still throw the ball, but that might affect the game plan a little bit. So they might also keep the ball on the ground more often than not throughout the game tomorrow. The Seahawks Raiders game tomorrow. And another running back that I do like a lot is James Conner, who's costing 6,600 DraftKings salary. He's easily the number one running back on the Cardinals depth chart. And he's actually running against a Chargers defense that's really struggling against run as well this year. They've really been underwhelming. Now, I know injuries in the Chargers defense obviously hasn't helped. So this probably continue to be the case this week. So I expect James Conner to maybe not run for high yardage, but he'll get a lot of touches in the red zone. And of course, when a lot of touches in the red zone means a couple of touchdowns there as well. So I really do like James Conner as a great play tomorrow. He's also flying a little under the radar tomorrow with all these other top running backs, different situations here. So definitely add Josh Jacobs to Labs tomorrow, or excuse me, James Conner to Labs tomorrow. I think he's a great start. And as for wide receivers, my number one wide receiver this week is Christian Kirk, costing 6,500 to DraftKings salary. He's finally back as a consistent, reliable fantasy weapon. He had a huge game in his most recent game against the Chiefs. He's 6,500 DraftKings salary this week, as I said. And he is going against a Ravens defense, which is ranked 26th against opposing wide receivers. So Christian Kirk, I think he's the top playmaker on that Jaguars offense. He's the number one guy. He's the go-to guy. They're paying him all that money, so trying to make that contract worth it. So I do like Christian Kirk a lot tomorrow. He's going to be a great start. Trust me on this. He's my wide receiver of the week. He's not expensive as a Tyreek, as Devontae Adams, as the guys like that. He's significantly cheaper, and he has pretty much just as high of an upside. You never know because anything can happen. So I really do like Christian Kirk. Another wide receiver that I'm going with tomorrow is even cheaper than Christian Kirk is Terry McLaurin. His 5,800 DraftKings salary tomorrow. So ever since Taylor Heineke has took over the starting job with Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin has finally became fantasy relevant again. He's matching up against a lackluster Falcons secondary with the only reliable weapon they have in that secondary, or yeah, the only reliable defender they have in that Falcons secondary is the corner AJ Terrell. But I believe that matchups, if even if he's matched up in McLaurin, might not even be the whole game. And even if he is matched up against McLaurin for most of the game, there should be no problem with Terry McLaurin. Heineke loves getting him involved. He's number one pass catcher on that Commanders offense. So I really do like McLaurin a lot tomorrow. Good cheap option. Not a look, has a high floor and potentially a nice ceiling as well. I think he is one of the safer wide receivers in tomorrow's game or tomorrow's slate. And one more wide receiver I have written down here is T. Higgins. So I know a couple of weeks ago I said he's a little boomer bust. There's a couple of games where he looks really good, a couple of games where he's doesn't look as good. However, something I've realized more recently is that ever since Jamar's went down, T. Higgins has really emerged as the number one pass catcher, number one wide receiver on the Bengals offense, as he has the potential to do. And obviously, Jamar Chase has already been ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Titans. Titans defense is ranked 29th against opposing wide receivers. The Bengals move the ball best when Joe Burrow's throwing it. T. Higgins, number one pass catcher. So I'm starting T. Higgins tomorrow. Costing 6,900 drafting salary, so that price is going up a little each week. Still not high enough to where he's not worth it. Still cheaper than the most expensive wide receivers in the slate. So I do like T. Higgins a lot tomorrow. And now, as for a tight end, now I spoke briefly about Mark Andrews before. He obviously probably is the best tight end on the slate. I mean, Kelsey's also on the slate too. Kelsey's never a bad start. But when it comes to a tight end that's a lot cheaper than the two of them, I do like David Njoku a lot. He's back and fully healthy, and he's matched up against the Buccaneers defense ranked 29th against opposing tight ends. And Njoku is either the first or second pass catching option on the Browns offense. It's either him or Mari Cooper, number one, number two, or maybe not even number one, number two, maybe they're 1A or 1B. Either way, Njoku will have a high involvement in that Browns offensive game plan tomorrow, so I'd add Njoku to the lineup. And finally, wrapping up my notes, comes to my defense of the week. So I know this is the most obvious one, and it's the most expensive one on the slate, but it is the 49ers defense costing $4,000 DraftKings salary. And the reason why I like him so much is because that defense is legit. They're elite this year. They played really well, especially in the second half, not allowing a single point in the second half for who knows how long now. They're really good. Doesn't matter how many injuries they've have to witness this year. They're still constantly playing really well as they have been all season. And their matchup is too good to pass up on. It's against a struggling Saints offense. The Saints offense really hasn't looked great, particularly any game this year, except maybe against Seahawks a couple of weeks ago, earlier in the season. So I'm starting the 49ers defense tomorrow. I'm going to try to, I'd say it's honestly worth saving a little bit of salary over this way you get a 49ers defense tomorrow because they're probably the best defense on the slate by far, honestly. There's really looking at it, there's really not another defense that I like as much. Maybe the Dolphins defense against the Texans, but the Dolphins defense, in my opinion, has been a little underwhelming this year. So yeah, I'm going 49ers defense all the way. Now, as for my colleague, Mr. Rob's notes, as I mentioned, he's not here with us tonight. He will be back next week, but he's still with us here in spirit. So I do have his guys as well. Mr. Rob, his favorite play with the whole slate for this whole slate is Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, when Rob's on this podcast, he continuously speaks about how bad that Cardinals secondary is. And Byron Murphy, who is the Cardinals' top cornerback, is out tomorrow. He's ruled out tomorrow. They'll he expects a heavily, you know, excuse me, I can't get it out today. But he expects a game that's heavily where both offenses be heavily involved in the passing game. He likes the Justin Herbert stacked up with Keenan Allen, who should be back. He already is back, but he's getting healthier about a week. So you like Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen a lot tomorrow. And yeah, he's a core play for Rob. And I think he really convinced me on this too. He's honestly a core play in cash game and GPP formats for both. There's really not one format that he's not a good play in. So he is a great quarterback this week. Now I tried to save him for Rob because I don't want to talk about the same guys. I tried to add a couple of new guys in there. But Herbert also cheaper than Mahomes and Lamar. So definitely Herbert, not a great start for tomorrow. And then as Rob said, just like it says in Rob's notes over here, Key and Keenan Allen might be that combo that wins you a lot of cash tomorrow. Now, as for running backs, Jeff Wilson Jr. of the Miami Dolphins, Raheem Mostert is doubtful tomorrow. So Jeff Wilson Jr. should see a large majority of the carries, and he's running against a weak Houston defense. We know the Houston defense is struggling against the run all year long. Tomorrow should be no different. The Dolphins are loaded on weapons, but they still try to run the ball as well. Jeff Wilson Jr. has fit very well in that Mike McDaniel scheme. So I expect him to have a huge game tomorrow, as does Rob. Another running back that Rob likes is Rachaad White. He's also very cheap this week, and he'll be a great play in all formats, GPP, cash games, especially now that Leonard Fournette is ruled out tomorrow. He's officially ruled out. And yeah, he's matched up against 32 run defense in the NFL. So Rachaad White should be a great cheap play tomorrow, and he'll be another guy that will probably win you a lot of cash if you start him. I think he's another guy to be overlooked. And finally, Rob also further mentions on Kenneth Walker. I know I briefly mentioned him as well, but Kenneth Walker, he is just such a good start tomorrow. Trust me, especially if it rains in that game and they run the ball more. Kenneth Walker will see a lot of red zone carries, especially. And of course, with red zone carries comes touchdowns. So Kenneth Walker, Rob and I both universally agree on this. Make sure he is in your lineups tomorrow. And as for wide receivers, we already talked about Keenan Allen. Josh Palmer, another easy stack option, still relatively cheap, still too cheap in terms of the value he's been hitting. So make sure Josh Palmer is also in that lineup tomorrow as well. Just another great option. As I said, Rob and I, we're both coming with the bangers. Rob is not here, but that does not stop him. We're both ready. We're both primed, I'd say, for huge days tomorrow. Got, just very optimistic this week. I'm just feeling it this week. I don't know what else to say. One more wide receiver Rob has is Treylon Burks, cheap wide receiver one, who's matched up against the Bengals. The Bengals always run a lot of cover one and cover three defense, which is a matchup event for Treylon Burks, as he has really destroyed that in college a lot. And tight end, Rob just further goes on Mark Andrews, who's back 100% fully healthy. He's the Jaguars' matchup is ranked dead last in DOV against opposing tight ends. And yeah, Jacksonville run a ton of coverage two zone defense, mixed in with some cover one and cover three. And all of those defenses, what do they all have in common? Is that Mark Andrews exceeds against all of those defenses. So yes, he is one of the more expensive tight ends on the slate, but if you do have the salary, he is a great play tomorrow. Rob and I both universally grant him too. So that'll conclude it. Those are all of our plays. Some of them we shared, some of them we had different views. But either way, all everybody that Rob said, I do like his points a lot. It's too hard to pass up on. So that gives you a whole lot of options this week, some cheaper than others, but they're all going to be great options. Trust us. Rob and I both, we just been hot recently. We're coming off of great weeks here, little by little. I wouldn't say little by little, we're getting better and better every week. Both coming off of nice Thanksgiving days. And like I said, I am optimistic. Tomorrow, week 12, going to be a great day for both of us here. And if you listen to our advice, then you can very well be in that same boat. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in for another week. We really do appreciate the support. If you like what you see here, subscribe, or at the very least, give us a like to this video. Consider donating to our Patreon for the price of a cup of coffee, only for the price of a cup of coffee per month. You'll have access to our Excel spreadsheet, cheat sheet. It shows you all the players, all the relevant players on this Sunday slates. It shows you their matchup, their price, the amount of times they hit value. It's a great little tool to have, to help you get that little advantage. And also you get access to our Discord where Rob and I are available 24/7 to help you with that last minute lineup advice. Because I know there's always those 2, 3 guys that you're deciding between on who you want to start. So if you're donating to our Patreon, you'll be in that Discord. You can get either Rob and I in a live call with you, and we will, give us our view, our opinion, and maybe they'll help you out. So, like I said, thanks again. Thanks again for tuning in here and listening to us on a weekly basis, listening to me tonight. Rob will be back next week. And yeah, good luck tomorrow. And it's time to join the rebellion.